What goes on, everybody? We are back with the Adrian Tapia YouTube channel. Why are we doing this? We have no idea, but we're just a couple guys here who are ready for a good conversation. Talk about God, politics, possibly fitness, wherever the conversation goes. So yeah, Nick, this is my best friend right here. For those of you who have never seen him before, that's okay because I don't really post him a lot. But at the end of the day, he is my best friend. We've been best friends for what? About
12 or 13 years.
12 or 13 years.
Depends on who you ask, because we've debated about this a couple times.
Yeah, because he is very older than me. That's okay.
Yep.
But because I guess when we first started associating with one another, it's because it was through Mia, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because for those of you who may not know, Mia was one of my high school friends, and we had a cool little group going on at the church, and youth around that time was very, very cool. But that was where my introduction to his family was. But as time went on, we just kind of got closer in the sense of we got a lot of kind of similar views on things as I got older. And, you were a good mentor for me growing up as well.
Trying to be.
He's still working on it. But yeah, do you want to introduce yourself in any way, shape, or form?
Yeah, I'm Nick. Again, we've been friends for roughly 12 or 13 years. Again, we've argued about it. My wife argues about it, how long we've known each other. I think even Mia has a different opinion of how long we've all known each other.
Yeah.
But to your point, I knew of you. You hung around with Mia. You would come by when we would eat. We'd stay late at the churches and stuff and do our dinners there and kind of make it clear that you were hungry, and you'd sit with us and we'd feed you and do fellowship. And
yeah, I guess I was an orphan for a little bit.
You were like our orphaned little child. And then you became an adult, and I found out you were joining the military, and I really admired that. Thought it was really cool. I saw the person who you were turning into be, and you started reaching out to me, and I was like, okay, well, don't want to steer this guy the wrong way. Want to make sure I'm always giving him good advice and try to be there for you as much as I could. And yeah, we just kept getting closer and closer, and I admired you, and I'd like to think you took some good pointers from me, and yeah, we just became really, really close from there.
Yeah. Not the bad parts.
Not the bad parts.
Yeah, those you had to throw away. But actually, I never actually got into that story. So how did you guys start going to the church in general?
So I bounced. So I grew up in what you would call a Christian home. We bounced from church to church to church when I was a kid. We moved a lot when I was a kid. All stayed in the Inland Empire, but my parents, for different circumstances, my little brother went through cancer treatment when we were 3. So we gave up our home at that time because we needed a lot of help. He beat cancer. I think by the time he was 6, he stopped treatments. My parents bought a house again, moved a lot. So we changed churches a lot. The only church I'd say we consistently went to throughout those 18 years of my life was probably Harvest. And then I, moved out very young, trying to get my life together, figure out what a church I was going to attend. And I bounced from church to church. And then I had a friend from work invite me to the Rock Church and World Outreach Center.
Okay.
And that was in 2006. And I went to the young adults ministry. Again, I like to think that I gave my heart to the Lord at the Rock or at Harvest Church when I was 15.
Right.
I did it again at that time in 2006. So I wasn't even 20 yet.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so I consider that my true salvation because I was an adult and I had a little bit more knowledge of what I was doing.
Right.
So that was January 2006.
Got it.
I met Antonia, and then she started attending in 2008. And then we both decided that was going to be our home church. And then we got married 3 years later. And
was she as Christian as you were at that time when you guys started talking?
So depends on your definition, which, you and I have had these conversations, and I watched your show from yesterday. She grew up Catholic.
Yeah.
And she went to a very liberal Catholic church, right? And I don't think a lot of ministry was taught. I don't think a lot about the salvation that Jesus brings was taught in that church. And this is not to say that not all Catholic churches teach that.
Right.
But in the church, she specifically, because that's something she makes clear all the time, is some of the things she learned in that first year at the Rock are things she had never heard in her life before. Yeah. And I'm like, this is kind of common knowledge if you go to a non-denominational or Protestant church.
Yeah.
And so she's like, never heard these things in my life. That you have to go through Jesus and you have to do this and blah, blah, blah. Communion is very different in the Catholic Church. And I had a little bit more knowledge of that because my dad's side of the family grew up Catholic.
Right.
And all 5 of my grandfather's children walked away from the Catholic Church. And
there's a trend going on there.
They're all considered what you would call either non-denominational or Protestant now.
Got it.
And so, but I did have knowledge of that growing up.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of cool to come to that place together. Because, we're all still growing as Christians. And at that time, I definitely was still growing. we met when I was 21 and a half.
Mhm.
So we both did a lot of growing since then. So I wouldn't say that I was more Christian than her, but I would say that I was in a better foundation because of the church I was attending at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it kind of goes to show that I feel like a lot of Catholic churches, like especially on the local level, like they don't do like a great service on like teaching like their congregation like the actual mainstream doctrine and theology of the Catholic Church, which it goes to show that you could give some grace to people who claim to be Catholic, where at some points they don't really understand what that even means.
Yes.
So, and I think that's why there's a tendency for a lot of these Catholic churchgoers to eventually become non-denominational, because they're like, oh, I was never taught this. We were told we couldn't even read the Bible at my church, you know? So it's cool to see that, you know, Antonia kind of, you know, followed that path, you know, followed the road to see where it led to you and this family and going to the church.
Absolutely.
You know, and, you know, it goes the same for like my wife. Like, luckily for me, like we were both on a very, very similar path when it comes to our walks in the faith. And that made, I think, us getting together, eventually getting married, like way smoother. Like, I feel like there's so many couples and just like in general, they don't really have that conversation early on. And it leads to just strife and chaos and arguments down the line, you know? So it just goes to show you got to be similar in those morals and the hardcore beliefs, you know?
Well, that was one of the, it's funny that you bring that up.
Yeah.
And you're asking like how we met and how we got together. We had dated, I think for maybe, it wasn't that long before we had the conversation of, okay, well, I'm going to visit your church and you're going to visit mine. And if we can't come to an agreement, if we're going to start taking this relationship serious, if we can't come to an agreement where we're going to attend church, then we don't need to be together anymore.
Yeah.
And she kind of agreed, but she was a little upset that I said that.
You don't say.
She kind of went back and was kind of venting to her Catholic friends. We had a mutual friend that's actually how we met. And he was hardcore Catholic. And he gave me an earful the next day, was like, how dare you, blah, 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 be judgmental. I said, I'm not being judgmental. I just don't think we should be together if we're not going to have the same faith. And that's not to say that Catholics and what you would call Christian or non-denominational can't make it work. But I think there's, to your point you made earlier, right? If you're not following the principles and the doctrine of your church, then maybe it makes it a little bit easier to be together. But if you are following the doctrine the way that your church teaches,
you're going to butt heads a lot
then
more.
You're going to butt heads, especially when you're talking about raising children, where you're going to get married, how you're going to make certain decisions when it comes to your life. You know, those hardcore decisions that a married couple is eventually going to have to go through. A lot of it is based on your faith and where you find the word and how much you're dependent on God. And again, if you're, you know, now without doing Catholic bashing, if you're leaning on more than just Jesus Christ, or you feel like you got to pray to a certain saint, that's going to cause conflict in the house.
Yeah. And again, we're not bashing the Catholics.
Not in the least.
We're not. We love you guys. Okay. We got some conversation. We got some differences, and that's okay.
Yep.
You know, speaking of conversations and differences, we got to talk about this game we're talking about right here. We're going to do a little gimmick right now, because for people who may not know, I know nothing about football, and that's okay, because, you know, that's fine. But on the same sense, Nick knows nothing about Strongman. For those of you who may know, I love Strongman, and now you guys know that Nick loves football. So we're going to do a fun little game called Two Truths, One Lie. But when it comes to Strongman and football, and just see if we can get some things right or things, you know, wrong. So basically, for you guys who don't know how this game works, we're going to give 3 facts. One's going to be a lie, and the other person basically has to call it out, see which one's the truth, which one's the lie. Pretty simple. So Nick, your 3 facts. First one, Arnold Schwarzenegger is the first inductee in the World's Strongest Man Hall of Fame. Locked in?
Locked in.
All right. 2, benching is frowned upon in Strongman.
Okay.
And then 3, the largest cash pool in Strongman, as in someone who wins like the show, the podium cash prize, is $100,000. That is the highest has ever been in the sport.
I feel like either you or something else that I saw, because obviously you being my friend, my social media algorithm kind of coincides with yours sometimes. I feel like the bench warming one is true, if I remember right. The other
shows how
two,
much you pay attention to my conversations.
Yeah.
How much I vent about my sport.
Yeah. And so then the cash is hard to say, because I know it's a growing sport. It's gotten pretty big. I know you went to nationals recently.
$100,000. That's a lot of money.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of money.
And I know Arnold did set like a lot of like firsts.
Yeah.
A lot of firsts, but that one specifically, I don't know. But that's what I'm going to go with. I'm going to say Arnold being the first.
That's the lie?
That's the lie.
And he is correct. That is the lie. Let's go! He knows things.
To know things.
Yeah, it's true though. Yeah, people associate Arnold with strongman, but he's done nothing.
No, he's a bodybuilder.
He's a bodybuilder, and
Yeah.
he did like 1 or 2 like powerlifting meets that were very,
And
very.
see, I kind of knew.
Yeah,
that
he
too.
was like 18 when he
Okay.
did that. So he had like nowhere in his adult career did he ever like do powerlifting again. But
Gotcha.
yeah, his whole thing was being Mr. Olympia like 8 times. Yeah.
And that's the part I knew. And then just again, I knew he did like certain competitions.
Yeah.
But I was like, I don't think he did strongman. So anyway.
No, yeah, the strongman as a sport is definitely like bled into like the Arnold as like the sports festival.
Yeah.
Because it's like the mainstream like festival for like all strength sports, like powerlifting, bodybuilding. So it's still like a high end like show, and strongman is kind of bleeding into that.
Okay.
But as for it being like the main focus, no. Yeah, and you were right, benching. For some reason, yeah, not a lot of strongmen like benching. It's not really.
Yeah.
It's not really implemented.
This conversation.
Yeah, like it's not really implemented in competitions as much as like I think it should be.
Okay.
But there's people have made arguments, like a lot of old school strongman heads think like, oh, it's not a spectacle. That's powerlifting. Keep it out of strongman. But I'm like, we squat and deadlift just fine.
Yeah.
It's up to like the showrunners just to make it entertaining.
Right. Exactly.
And then the last one, yeah, the strongman pool, prize pool, yeah, 100,000.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, through Rogue, believe it or not.
That is life-changing money.
It really is, bro. There's a strong woman. Her name is Inez Carastillo, and from Puerto Rico, and she won in 2024, I believe, $100,000, and she was able to quit her job and be a full-time pro strong woman.
Good for her.
Yeah, and bro, it's insane. Like that was like the first time where a woman can actually make that type of money through the sport and like live off it. So it just goes to show where the sport's going, and
awesome.
Hopefully it goes that way for like of course like the weighted athletes, things of that nature, but just hopefully it gets to the level of football.
For sure.
I doubt it after like 100 years because
it's
been around since like what 1920.
Absolutely. Well, and
you guys got a head start on us.
Well, and then with football, you got to remember that there's a reason why there's pretty much no amateur league. It's kind of taken off in the last couple of years, but it's so hard for amateur leagues of football to even exist.
Yeah,
because football will make sure that no other market competes with it.
Right, because from a little I know about it, it seems like college just bleeds straight into the NFL, and like there's no other really side routes. Like I've heard things like the XFL.
So the XFL started, I want to say, in 2000, which was backed by the WWE. That was why it had the financial money to get started.
Right.
You had the AFL, which I think there were several rich business tycoons, blah, blah, blah. Donald Trump was involved in the 90s trying to get that to take off. Again, you just can't compete with the NFL.
Yeah.
Not only is it set its place in America's TVs, but also they're going to make sure the second you start to get that market, what are they going to do? They're going to buy up the channels, they're going to buy up the commercials and make sure that you don't compete with them. Yeah. And they have the money to do that. So it's very hard to compete with football. That's why with college football, even they make sure all their games are on Saturdays. Mm-hmm. And then when the NFL playoffs start, they make sure to start scheduling their games to start ending. They have fewer games. Their playoffs are a lot shorter. Mm-hmm. They know they can't, even college football can't compete with the NFL.
Right.
Their championship game is on a Monday because by that time the NFL playoffs have started and they play on Saturdays and Sundays. Mm-hmm. So again, nobody tries to compete with the NFL.
So are they like the most profitable like sports association, like compared to like the last like time, NBA, MLB, like
the last time I checked, I believed it was, but it is very watered down. For the longest time, it was baseball, and it was not close.
Yeah,
because it was one of the first ones to kind of go international. You have 162 games compared to the NFL right now has 17, mm-hmm. So it's a little bit harder to make money, right? So their cash cow really needs to come in the 4 months that the NFL season goes on. Yeah, they have to make all their money right then, right now. But it has grown exponentially. They do one game in Europe per week now.
Wow.
Which before, a couple of years ago, I think it was like 2 or 3 games they would do a year. Mm-hmm. So the game has grown exponentially. And then I would give the NBA their flowers now too. It's become more of a global sport. Mm. A lot of viewers in China. Mm. And then, the European basketball leagues and European players coming over here. It's starting to make it grow in that part of the world now too.
Good. Not the WNBA.
Not the WNBA.
Not the WNBA.
Again, it's grown a lot. There's been a lot of good things happen in the sport for the last year or two, but it's still at a net loss every single year.
Makes sense. If you have a problem with that, you watch it, and then make right that wrong. Well, if you feel some type of way about it.
That's the thing now, right? Like, I have one of my daughters now. She's a really good athlete.
Yeah.
She's into softball, basketball, volleyball, whatever. But she's straight up telling me, she's like, Dad, like, I like sports. I like watching sports with you. She's like, I really want to watch women's sports when it's on TV.
Yeah.
So, okay, fine. I'll flip by. Hey, WNBA is on. You want to watch it? Does not matter who's on. She wants to watch it.
Yeah.
Because to see someone, I think, of the same gender as her, and she's just like, I could do that.
Yeah, it's encouraging.
It's very encouraging.
Good.
And these are the best athletes in the world.
Yeah.
They just happen to be of the women's sex. And again, if you guys want the sport to do well, there are more women in this country than there are men.
Support.
And I'm not for sitting down and watching cable and TV all day. I do think we spend way too much time on the tube.
Yeah.
But all that to say, again, I think the sport could get a lot more support, especially from the people who are calling for it to get more support.
I would agree. So before we get sidetracked, you got to give me your...
Okay, so I took notes on mine too, because I'll be totally honest with you, and I think we talked about it a little bit earlier inside. Yeah. I went way more out of pocket with mine, and mine are going to be way harder. So I'm
kind of concerned, but I felt like I was able to pick your brain a little bit for the last 5 minutes. I think I have some facts now.
But these are like stuff that
it's gonna be like in the 1920s.
I think most of my NFL fan friends wouldn't know most of these.
I'm scared.
So I'm giving you some.
I'm gonna pick the most obscene one and just say that's right. Go for it.
So, all right. Here's my first lineup.
Oh geez, I'm scared.
No one has ever beat the Packers at home in the playoffs. That's my first fact there.
At home, as in they're in
in the
Green
Packers
Bay?
Stadium in Green Bay.
Okay, they're in Green Bay. They never lost in Green Bay.
They've never lost in Green Bay in the playoffs.
In the playoffs.
Okay. So they can lose on the road, but if they have home field advantage, they don't lose.
Okay.
Josh Allen was the 7th pick of the 2018 NFL Draft. Josh Allen was the 7th pick of the 2019 NFL Draft.
Okay.
You have to think about that one. The first player to catch a pass from Brett Favre was Brett Favre.
Wait, what? So he caught his own throw?
Take it how you want it.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So I will say it one more time.
Okay. One more time.
No one has ever beat the Packers at home in the playoffs.
Okay.
Josh Allen was the 7th pick of the 2018 draft.
Okay.
Josh Allen was the 7th pick of the 2019 draft.
Okay.
The first player to catch a pass from Brett Favre was Brett Favre.
Okay. So when it comes to the actual two individuals named, I know nothing about them.
Okay.
I know a little bit about Green Bay because our mutual friend Alex has a tattoo of Green Bay Packers on him. So I think I'm a big
Packer fan.
I think I'm very knowledgeable in that aspect. But seeing how the last two seem the most complicated, I'm going to go with the simpler one. I'm going to go with A, the Green Bay one. Is that the lie?
That one is the lie.
Let's go!
So
I'm a football nerd.
That's a good one. So it did take a long time for them to lose in Green Bay. They did not lose their first home NFL playoff game until 2003.
Okay.
And they have lost 6 other opponents since then at home.
Okay, but so they had an undefeated streak.
They had an undefeated streak of 40 or 50 years of not losing at home in the playoffs.
Okay.
And that's because it gets -7 by the time the playoffs kick around in Wisconsin.
Jeez.
So, yeah.
Okay, so explain the story behind the last two because
so
those are both facts. I need to understand.
Brett Favre,
okay.
He started with the Falcons, and I don't think he played an NFL snap. Gets traded to the Packers, and his first throw was an interception, got ran back for a touchdown, right? But that's not a completion.
Mm-hmm.
Next drive, throws the ball, defensive player bats it in the air, Brett catches it and comes down with it. So his first completed pass ever was to himself.
That's insane. Okay.
The Josh Allen one was Josh Allen in 2018 was the NFL quarterback that plays now for the Buffalo Bills. He won MVP last year. Josh Allen, the 7th pick of 2019 NFL draft, is a defensive end who happens to have the same name.
So 2 different guys.
And they were both drafted in the same pick in 2 different draft years.
Okay. Going based off the history of the NFL, I feel like there'd be a lot more similar names in general.
There kind of is. There kind of is, but
I thought there's a lot of Johnson.
Josh Allen.
Yeah.
You probably go anywhere imagine people at the airport, how many times they probably hear that name a day.
Right.
So, to that point.
That makes sense. All right. Well, it goes to show we actually know a little bit more about each other's sports.
Yeah, we pay attention.
Here and that was just really simple. We just made the first one to lie.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go back to that one down the line. I think that was kind of fun, actually.
That was cool.
I like it. All right. Going to the next portion. We got to go off some hot takes because the people, they like hot takes for some reason.
People love hot takes.
And now, not only do they like hot takes, they like religion hot takes.
Yep.
So, Nick, I have to ask you, where are some of your biggest Christian hot takes? We can probably go back and forth on a few. I got a couple.
I think we can go back and forth on a few. I think one that
As you're wearing a Crusader shirt, by the way.
I'm wearing a Crusader shirt. We're going to that
so
one. So
Israel and Palestine. What's your thoughts on that, Nick? Huh? Why are you sipping that mug so close, huh? We're going to get canceled too, right?
There's a peace treaty.
There's
Let's
a-
just
there's
hope it
a-
holds. Let's just hope it holds.
I think it broke today, didn't it?
Did it break today?
Oh no, it depends.
I have not kept up with
Depends
the news today.
when this gets posted.
It does.
It might get broken by the time it gets posted.
Hopefully, it doesn't get broken
Hopefully,
anytime soon.
Lord.
Enough innocent people have been hurt.
Yeah.
But the one I wanted to talk about, and it's one of the ones I kind of have a common conversation with a lot of my Christian friends, and I think the church that you and I attend, and I think most churches do agree with this, but I don't think it's talked about enough.
Go for it.
And that's just that I think there are a lot of people called Christians, and then this again goes for non-denominationals, it goes for Protestants, it goes for Catholics, it goes for Baptists. There's a lot of Christians who are going to go to hell.
Yeah.
And I don't think we talk about that enough.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we talk about the hard stuff. I don't think we talk about the difficult things. And whether you want to talk about it in Bible study, church, talking to your friends, talking to your kids, talking to your spouse, I don't think we have these hard enough conversations of saying, are you living for Jesus? Did you actually get saved?
Yeah.
Kind of what we talked about earlier. And again, this is my point when I say I'm not picking on the Catholic Church, because I think a lot of churches do this. A lot of people don't know it's not communion. It's not talking to your pastor. It's not going to confessional. It's not celebrating Christmas and Easter. It's, not only saying the prayer of giving your life to Jesus Christ, but meaning it, following through with it, denying yourself, denying your flesh, not living for yourself anymore. You're not going to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to turn your life around. But I had a pastor tell me a long time ago, and it really struck home with me, of how do you expect to be transformed if you're not prepared to be transformed? So if you're not living on earth here and saying, like, every single day, waking up and saying, like, I repent of my sins, because not that I'm just scared of going to hell, but I don't want to live that way. I want to live for Jesus. I want to live for Christ.
Yeah.
So why do you think God's going to let you into heaven if you're still not ready to let go of your sins?
Yeah.
So anyway, all that to say, living for Christ, you can explain it in a lot of different ways. But really, as Christians, if you're a Christian and you're really living for Jesus, there's only one way that it really means.
Right.
We know what that means, right?
Yeah.
And I just don't think it's talked about enough. So to just share really quick 3 scriptures to kind of just back up a little bit what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I'm not a pastor, I'm not sitting here and trying to say, I'm going to hit you with some scripture and you guys all need to get into a better church, or I'm not doing any of that. But these scriptures always hit home with me, and I think they're important. But Matthew 7:14, but small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it. Matthew 22:14, for many are invited, but few are chosen. Not talking about you, Calvinists. And then Luke 13:24, work hard to enter the narrow door to God's kingdom, for many will try to enter but will fail. And that is not me saying that works will get you into heaven.
Yeah.
I think it's talking about working on you, working on your relationship with Christ. Like, are you taking it seriously enough? Or are you just, I said a prayer one time, so I'm good. So.
Yeah, and it goes to, I think, what is a revelation. It's like, many will call me Lord, but will not enter the kingdom of heaven.
Yep.
Like, it's true. Like, I think there are a lot of people, like you said, don't have these conversations, or they use the same language that we're using, but have no idea what it means, or mean completely different things. It's like I go on about when it comes to, the Church of Latter-day Saints or Jehovah's Witnesses. They use words like salvation, Christian, Jesus, but when you compare them to, like, a Protestant, Baptist, or Catholic point of view, it's a whole different type of Jesus.
Absolutely.
So even those people who claim to be Christian or claim to be saved, they are actually in a whole different type of ballpark.
Yep.
So I think those are conversations we need to be having. What do you think, we should start having these conversations? Because obviously, is it after a church service at your church? Is it through your friends, your circles? Is it through YouTube channels? What do you think?
I think we live in a generation now where this is where you're going to get the most hits, right?
Yeah.
Or YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, whatever. I think that is the future of Christian ministry. Say that's good or bad, I don't know. We want people still attending church. We want people still attending Bible studies. But let's face it, to reach the world, you got to use the avenues that are available to you.
Yep.
Right? Street preaching, still back it up 100%. Going to your everyday church, back it up 100%. Whether you're at a big church or a small church. First and foremost, I think the church needs to have these conversations. Yeah. And I know it's hard.
Yeah.
Because it pushes people away. The second people start hearing about fire and brimstone and you're going to go to hell if you don't do this, a lot of people walk out or they tune out, well, I showed up, pardon me, I showed up because, my mom told me to, or, my spouse made me, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But, a lot of people get turned off.
Yeah.
I know several people who used to attend our church, and they're like, well, yeah, the pastor said, X, Y, and Z. I can give you a million different conversations that people have told me. Therefore, I don't want to attend that church anymore.
Yeah.
And that's
let's be clear too, like there is a strong difference between leaving a church for personal emotional reasons versus scriptural reasons.
Yes.
Because I feel like there are too many people who leave a church just because, that pastor said something I didn't like.
Yeah.
Or he said something that I just found offensive. I'm like, if he's saying scripture-based stuff, you're the problem, not the pastor.
Absolutely. Yeah. If he's backing it up in black and white and showing you in scripture what it says, what's the problem?
Yeah. And I feel like too many pastors out there are willing to sacrifice the truth just to fill up seats. Like, I think this is an issue in a lot of churches. Like, if you're not, questioning your pastor in the sense like, I want to go back to my home, open up my Bible and confirm what he's saying to be true or fact, then that's an issue.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of pastors need to be checked. I think a lot of churches need to make sure that, hey, at the end of the day, if he is saying along what I'm seeing in scripture, then that's a good church.
Absolutely.
So it just goes to show that, a lot of these people need to be, backed up in the word, and pastors can't be afraid to speak the word.
Right. And to just follow up real quick, I know it was a long-winded answer.
Very good.
But, it needs to be brought up in church because that's how you're going to reach the adults, essentially.
Yeah.
That's how you're going to get through to whether you're talking about a 19 or 60-year-old. That's how you're going to get through to the adults. They got to understand, these are conversations that really should happen in church on a weekly, if not daily basis, right? You're not in church every day, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But parents, sisters, brothers, people that you love and care about, I think these are real conversations that we need to make a little more comfortable. But I know me growing up, and I can attest to the generations before us, people were really turned off by the second you talked about anything about the Bible. Oh, don't be preachy. We don't talk about religion in my house. We don't know. Why did we get to that point? And then why did we as Christians kind of go, oh, okay, well, I won't talk about religion, even if it's a Christmas dinner where we're celebrating.
Yeah, like if I'm in a household where I can't talk about the one thing that guides my everyday life, then what are we talking about?
Yep.
Nothing else matters.
Yep.
I don't care about the game. I don't care about, freaking little Freddie making the score at the game. Like, no, I want to talk about the Bible.
One, it's ironic that there's probably two groups that are the most sensitive about talking religion in their house, and it's Christians and atheists.
Yeah.
Christians.
Yeah.
You hear what I'm saying?
Right.
Christians and atheists. Atheists don't want to talk about it because they don't want to believe in it, right? But Christians, how many times I've been in a Christian household and I start talking biblically with somebody, even my spouse, and someone go, we're not doing that here.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought we met, at the Bible study thing last week or whatever, but I only drive that point home because you and I had talked about this a few weeks ago. I had a really cool conversation with a Muslim a couple of weeks ago. Nobody got insulted. We both said exactly what was on our mind. We both said exactly what was on our heart, explaining my religion to him explaining his religion to me, and just going, oh, okay, and he would try to water it down of just going, so, it kind of comes from the same thing. But when I said, well, no, it doesn't. One's going to lead you to hell and one's going to lead you to salvation. He was not insulted in the least. We just continued our conversation.
Yeah.
He understands that this is my heart talking. Like, I can't deny the God who created me and saved me because I don't want to hurt your feelings. Yeah. So it's just really ironic that I can have a healthy conversation with someone like that who couldn't be any further from my beliefs. Right. But a lot of people who we share beliefs with are the people who go, not right now, Adrian.
Yeah. And it's like the biggest lie from the enemy, I think, where people say, oh, it's very hateful to say what the Bible says to them or what the Bible says on these hot topic issues. Like, no, it's more loving to be truthful.
Absolutely.
Like if anything, I'm doing you a disservice by withholding the truth from you because I know this truth could potentially save your soul at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
So if I'm withholding that from you, that's just a huge disservice.
Well, and seeing that, I think people are very short-sighted. A lot of us can't see past our nose. I think that's a human tendency, right? Nobody wants to think about death. Nobody wants to think about what's after death. It's very simple and easy for us to think, because that's what TV's taught us, is that everybody's going to make it. Everybody's going to live on in the next world, or, I'm going to live on as a salamander in the next life, or whatever it might be. So much easier to accept that those things might be true rather than being separated from God, your creator, which ultimately leads to hell.
Yeah, I agree. All right. My personal hot take, Christian-wise. I think that gluttony needs to be held at the same status as like alcoholism, adultery, etc. What do you think?
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And I think, it's easy for us to say as Americans because that's what we see every day, but it's such an American habit, isn't it? Where we see the amount of food that's just stuffed and like the amount of salt we have in our diet, the amount of candy. Like, I can't tell you how many times, and I've done it myself too.
Yeah.
I go, man, I'm in a hurry. I got to get to work, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't pack any food. I'm going to get a Snickers bar. Oh yeah, that's great. I'm sure that's great for your body. And then what does that do also? It creates habits. And then, anyway.
Yeah, because for me, it's like, especially someone who's in fitness, who's been in fitness since he was around 15 years old, like being in shape, going to the gym is a great outlet. And I think it's something as Christians we should do. We should keep our temples healthy. But to also be that same Christian or same 15-year-old who grew up in the church and see people who have testimonies of coming back from like, lust, adultery, alcoholism. But yeah, we never hear testimonies of coming back from gluttony, And for me, it's like, it's weird because like you said, you made a good point. It's like, it's our culture. Like in the American church, we'll praise and applaud people who like come back from like lust and stuff like that. But when someone's scourging their face down on the buffet, we just turn our heads and just like, oh, that's normal.
I totally agree.
Like, we got to start speaking up on this,
Yeah. And it's hard because, I think that's the point you're kind of driving home there is that, it's easier to tell somebody, hey, we noticed you got a problem with alcohol, lust, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And those conversations, especially if they're a Christian, it's a little easier to have because they know what's wrong. But the second you tell somebody who maybe is overweight, or maybe they're getting overweight, or maybe you just see that they're having heart problems, whatever it may be, the second you're like, hey man, like we got to talk about your diet, dude. Like, I'm worried about you.
Yeah.
In American culture, it's a lot easier for somebody to go, it's none of your business.
Yeah. And to go back to the
and then everybody's going to back them up too.
Yeah.
Oh, you're so mean. How could you tell them that?
Exactly. Now, to go back to my point, like, oh, it's more loving to not be honest with them. Yeah. I'm like, what? People need to be checked, man.
And I think, we almost all, again, I'm not in the shape that I was 10 years ago.
We're working on it.
But we're working on it. You've gotten me there. My wife does feed me incredibly well, especially considering how busy my schedule is.
Yeah.
And doing things like the all meat carnivore diet, like I did, and things like that. It's done world of changes for my body and my health. And I've got more energy to play with my kids and stuff like that. But I miss, I did soccer with a couple of friends 2 years ago in adult league. Most fun I've had in a really long time. And then I was just talking to my wife this morning about finding a basketball league for adults around here. Just things like that. And it's just, you don't have to do anything where you're running for 45 minutes, but lifting weights, doing some push-ups in the morning. Maybe, instead of doing the McDonald's deal breakfast or whatever it may be, make some eggs at home,
Yeah.
Something without so much bread in it, whatever we got to do. But we also don't need to finish everything that's in front of us all the time too.
I agree. Any other hot takes you got?
I
know you got some top of your head. I know you didn't have to write it down. It's in there.
So this one didn't come to mind, but you pointed out my shirt.
What you got?
And I think it'll be a short conversation because otherwise we're going to be here for an hour and a half. But the Crusades were right.
Dang. All of them?
Wow. Okay. Because you're talking about hundreds of years of Crusades at that point. But
the second Crusade.
Yeah, but why they started, right?
Tell the people.
One
of the titles for this video is going to be the Deus Vult Dudes.
See,
we trademarked it.
See, I like it.
Because at the end of the day, Deus Vult.
God wills it.
God wills it. And that was one of the rallying cries for the Crusades.
That's it.
Because we were tired of it. We were tired
of it. Well, and the Christians weren't, there were Christian nations in the Middle East. There aren't anymore. And at the time, though, the reason that Christianity spread as fast as it did is because the Roman Empire, and then England kind of took that over at that point. England owned most of the known world at that time and kept going back and forth about who was going to own Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Well, and then Muslims didn't like that at the time. And they were like, well, we're going to get the Christians out of our land because, again, not getting too much into it, but that was what their religious beliefs were, is they're not one of us. Get them out of here. Kill them, push them out, purge them, whatever you got to do. And Christians put up with it for a long time.
Yeah.
And so did the Israelites put up with it for a long time. So therefore, it was a religious crusade to go, hey, we're going to take our land back because that's how our people were kept safe.
Yeah. And to people who might feel like offended or like, oh, we shouldn't be supportive of the Crusades, there's nastiness in any type of war.
Absolutely.
Whether it was the Americans, whether it's the Russians, Chinese, there's always some type of nastiness. And I don't think the Crusades are any different because, yes, what happened with the Crusades, yes, there are Christians doing it, But at the same time, no one condemns the Muslims for what they were doing prior to the Crusades.
Exactly.
Like, if we're going to have like the standard, we have to make sure it's across the board. Like, as a Christian today, I can look back and like, man, that was some crazy stuff.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, we can actually see it and be like, well, there was some necessity to it.
Yeah.
You know, because who knows what, I mean, obviously God would have had something planned for us, but we don't know what Christianity would look like today if it wasn't for the Crusades.
Right. Well,
you know?
You have to remember the Ottoman Empire hasn't been gone that long.
Yeah.
It came very close to taking over the world.
Didn't I see like a fact like the Cubs were still around, like when the Ottoman Empire was
absolutely,
still
yes.
like I was gonna 100%. Say, like it's very recent.
You know, and again, like that's fine. It's not to say everything the Ottoman Empire did was evil. They brought a lot of reading, writing, and civilization to a lot of parts of the world, and that's a good thing. But again, we were very close. Like Christian is not anymore at this point, but for a long time, Christian was the most popular religion in the world.
Yeah,
I believe now it's Islam again.
Yeah,
but when the Ottoman Empire was in charge, like that was the feud, right? That was the difference, and both of them were kind of going, well, you know, Spain's mine, no, Spain's mine, no, Israel's mine, no, Israel's mine, Palestine's mine, Jordan, I believe Turkey at a certain point, you know, so there's a reason why those wars went on, and you can't just sit here and just say it was all over land. There was a lot of persecution. There was a lot of innocent people getting killed. Yeah. And again, on both sides.
And what's wild too, I don't think it's common knowledge really that the Ottoman Empire was a like Islam-based society.
No one talks about that either.
Right. Like
I think if you ask most people what the Ottoman Empire was, they couldn't tell you.
Right.
So anyway, that's my take, is that the Crusades were justified, I think is a good point, right? Like, not to say everything they did was justified. Any innocent human life taken or abused is never okay. And I guarantee you God doesn't back it either. But again, like,
we've gone back and forth on this. Like, I don't know if I want to be a crusader staying face to face with God.
Absolutely.
You know, like,
can you justify every life that you took?
Exactly.
And that's a hard conversation.
It's a very hard conversation. Like, be glad we're not in those shoes, but we also can't deny the good that came from it as well. You know,
it goes to say, like, again, as we as Americans, especially because there is a lot of strife and war going on in the rest of the world. Look what's going on in Nigeria. You know, look what's going on in Palestine and Israel.
Yeah.
We are very spoiled in this country that no war except the Civil War realistically has ever been brought home.
Yeah.
And so we're very spoiled. People do not understand what war looks like. Not justifying any of it. But for as long as mankind has been around, war has looked like what war is. And again, you say a lot of it, what's going on in the Middle East, Nigeria, you know, these things are normal when it comes to war. It's not normal when it comes to, like, we're saying it's justified, but we're saying that this is the natural, this is why we're called to be saved. This is why we're talking about, like, Jesus come back already. You know, we don't like seeing this stuff. We don't want to see kids starve. We don't want to see kids murdered. We don't want to see kids bombed.
Yeah.
But again, like, we come from a very spoiled point of view, I think.
And I would agree. I would agree with that. So I guess kind of finish up with this. What is kind of like, I know we kind of made a joke about it earlier, but what does like Deus Vult mean to you when you hear the word God wills it?
So I think, you know, when you look at, again, that word kind of became more popular during the Crusades, and it was their war cry.
Yeah.
It was their war cry, right? Deus Vult, God wills it. To understand that most of those guys, especially as knights, came from money, and they had land, they had wealth, they had power. Imagine now kind of getting to the point of what we were just talking about. An American leader, congressman, a senator, a president, they've got money, they've got status, they got power, and they give all that up to say, I'm going to go fight in a war because I need to get the Holy Land back.
Yeah.
And people think, oh, they did it for money. They did it. Most of them lost all their wealth. And a lot of them gained it back by the time they won the Crusades. But you're talking about 7 to 10 years later before they saw any of that return. So picture that in your head.
Not to mention away from like any type of family they had.
Right. You didn't watch their kids grow. A lot of them left their wives, and some of them never came back. Like that's the consequence of war too. You might not come back. Anyway, getting to my point is that was their war cry, because not only was it terrifying to take on how huge those empires and those Muslim war leaders, war armies were, but also understand, like, we're doing this for God.
Yeah.
You know, I'm giving up my land. I'm giving up my titles. I'm giving up my status to go and protect innocent people, to go fight back for God's land. They truly believed. And again, like, that's where you can get into the debate of, did God want them to take all that land? Did they want them to do this? Did they want them to hold Israel? Those things can be debated on philosophy.
Yeah.
But they truly believe that God, this is what God wills, and that's why I'm going to go do it. And I think that's the only way that you can give a a justified reason to not only take life,
Yeah.
but to give up your own life too.
Right.
It's something that God is calling you to do.
100%. And I know nothing what we see today or deal with today as Americans really compares to that lifestyle,
No.
but I still think we can implement like the Deus Vult mentality to a Christian life today. Like I think we're still called to go out and do things, whether that's evangelizing, speaking the word, learning the word. Because yes, God does will us to be warriors in the faith, to be well versed in Scripture, to make sure we go out there and be not proud, but be confident in the Scripture, being confident in God's grace, and to go out there and speak the truth. Because we live in a very hostile society that doesn't like the name God, does not like hearing the name Jesus. And as soon as they hear those two words together, they lash back at you. So while we're not facing a physical war, I do think a spiritual war is still brewing, probably greater than ever.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
And to your point about like standing up for your faith and being who you are, that is a really clear example that just came to my mind. I just saw the video yesterday. I don't know if you've seen that one.
Yeah.
Of the Nigerian pastor.
Yeah.
Literally standing on top of the bodies and saying like, why is nothing being done? You know, showing his face of who he is and kind of calling out the people who are killing all his people, you know, puts a target on your back.
Yeah.
You know, and he's speaking out publicly, putting himself in a dangerous situation, but he's willing to give his life because he's not only speaking for God, speaking for Jesus, he's speaking for his flock.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's tired of watching his people get killed.
Yeah.
And if that's not Deus Vult, I don't know what is.
It's hard to say. But yeah, that's a good place to call it, don't you think?
I think it's a great place.
That is a great place. Well, guys, that was a good about half hour of just us talking about God, strongman, football, a little bit of Crusades, you know. And like I said, I don't know where this whole YouTube channel is going to go, but let me know what you guys like to see. If you like Nick here, if you like just me talking, if you don't like Nick, you can be honest with him. It's okay. But at the end of the day, tell us in the comments, you know, like the video. Why not? But yeah, let us know what you guys want to see, and appreciate to everyone who's actually sat down and listened to two guys just talk about God for 40 minutes. So appreciate you guys. Love you guys. And God bless you all. Have a good one.